Have you been trying to teach numbers to a kid who just doesn't understand numbers? Me too! Today, I'll show you what I'm trying to do to tackle this problem on It's a Beautiful Unschool Life. Ew! So, Bethany wants to learn how to count. She really struggles with it. Like, she has a hard time once she gets to like 14. We haven't done a lot of pushing at it. You know, we practice a little bit here and there, but it's just something that doesn't come easily to her. So of course then she doesn't like it, and then when she doesn't like it, then she panics and it gets even harder for her. So anyways, I had this book that I got ages ago, and it's all about making math fun. So the idea is, they say that we teach math the wrong way. Like, we teach the theory first, and then we do practice, but actually practice is more engaging. And if we did practice first and did theory afterwards, then children would be more engaged. So today we're going to do something from this that I think might help her understand how numbers work. Wish me luck. Okay, so the thing we're doing today is called a chimera. Basically, I was reading this book. I got this ages ago because I was told it was a good way to make math accessible. And so I was just looking through it because my sort of approach is I like to learn as much as I can, so that when the girls ask questions when we're out in the world or when they're interested in something, I like to have like a basic understanding of the subject so that I can give them the introductory lesson and then we can research from there. So anyways, I was reading this book to try to learn some stuff about how to do math for kids. And the girls were interested by this picture, so I explained it to them. The gist of it is it's really just like an Excel spreadsheet for little kids. So, you've got your cat heads, monkey heads, duck heads, cat bodies, monkey bodies, duck bodies. And when you put them together, you get all sorts of cool variations. So I did something similar on a piece of paper, and the girls found it interesting, and I went with it, because if they're interested in something, I'm gonna run with it. So I printed off 6 pictures of a cow, 6 turtles, 6 dogs, 6 unicorns. The girls picked the animals, and then 6 items of clothing. And so I just did the sort of the x-axis and the y-axis, x-axis and the y-axis, and then I let them fill it in themselves from there. So they didn't really remember it at first, and they asked me a couple of questions, and then as I gave them, I gave them basic answers so that they could connect the dots themselves. Because to me, that's what I want them to do. I want them to learn how to think for themselves and to learn how to solve problems and so on and so forth. I also emphasized with them that this is like a group exercise, that they were on the same team, that it was not a competition in any way whatsoever, because as we have already learned, my kids don't do terribly well with competition, but they do really well with teamwork. Hannah really got the hang of it a lot quicker. Her brain definitely thinks in patterns, whereas Bethany's brain it definitely thinks more in stories. So, for instance, Bethany really wanted to put 4 socks on the dog, because why would a dog only have 2 socks? That's ridiculous. Whereas to Hannah, it was a pattern. Of course the dog only gets 2 socks. So it was a really fantastic illustration of their 2 different ways of thinking. Hannah explained it to Bethany, and then when Abby was struggling, Bethany explained it to Abby. So it was a really lovely experience all around, actually. Now the other thing that this book says is that there's a law of 3, that the kids need to do something at least 3 times before they'll really understand it. In 3 times in 3 very different situations. So this was number 2.
and I'll show you number 3. So this is the next Chimera that I made. So this is just, I used an Excel spreadsheet and I took a picture from just a simple drawing from Google Images, and I just stuck it in each of the squares, so then they pick a color for the x-axis, a color for the y-axis, and away they go. And they didn't finish their pictures by any means whatsoever, but it was just another opportunity for them to practice this theory that I'm putting. And they were still enjoying it, so I gave one more a shot. So this one was a nice silly one. I printed 6 copies of each of their faces, and then 4 copies of a few different, you know, things: mustache, glasses, hat, hair, beard, so on and so forth. So they had a bit of a giggle with this one. So the next step is to transfer this to numbers.
So I've set this up, and I'm just gonna see if they notice it and if they feel like looking at it. We'll see how it goes.
Can you do it? No? How? How do you do it?
Well, how did you do the other ones? I gave you some clues. I did that one for you, and I did that one for you. Bethany figured that one out all by herself with no help from me.
And Abby?
Yeah, Abby didn't help very much.
So she asked me a couple of questions, and then she went and got a step stool, and then she was off. It took her a little over a half an hour, and there were quite a few, like, you know, distractions and interruptions. Not the least of which was Bethany's extreme hyperactivity, which we tried to get under control by trying to get Bethany to pat her head and rub her stomach at the same time, which worked for a minute, and then it just made her sillier. So I'm not going to recommend that as an ADHD fix. But yeah, Hannah really got into it, and she really enjoyed it. And when she was finished, she asked me to make her another one on paper that she could do. So I guess we found something that catches Hannah's focus, which is fantastic. I'm going to go back to that book and I'm going to find a few more things that maybe we can try, because patterns and numbers is something that she's really comfortable with and enjoys.
She's done! Holy guacamole! Hannah counted to 100 on my chalkboard. Nice work. Well, all right, you're gonna have to take off all the Hannahs and you can do it.
No!
And how did Bethany do, you ask? Well, before Hannah arrived, Bethany did one. She filled in one square, just a random square in the middle. And this was her reaction.
Yeah, you did it. Nice one, Bethany.
Look. Look at this.
You got it right.
I'll spare you watching the nose picking. So I don't know what that was about. I don't know what was going on there. But it doesn't really matter. We've laid the foundation. If she's not ready to do the whole chart, then it means she's not ready to do the whole chart. One day, maybe we'll come back to it. And one day, maybe we won't. But we've played around a little bit with patterns. We've introduced the concept. When she's ready, you know, we'll take the next step. And that's basically the approach that I take with things. You know, if they're interested, we do it. If they're not interested, it means they're not ready for it. It's that simple. And the other thing that I was thinking about is how sometimes when Bethany doesn't understand something, she feels really bad about herself and she has meltdowns. You know, I've made videos about that before. But something interesting happened while Hannah was working on the Chimera. I opened up on my laptop this really fantastic 3D animation, interactive 3D animation of the solar system. And while we were looking at that, Bethany named all the planets, and Hannah had no idea what they were called. So it really was a great way of sort of highlighting that they both have their own individual skills that they're good at, and it's part of working towards this idea that they don't need to compete with each other, they don't need to be jealous of each other. They're individual, separate people with their strength, their own strengths, you know. So I think that's pretty much it for today. We'll see what kind of great adventures we get up to the rest of the week. Thank you for joining us.
What are you barking at?